Do you need this, Mrs. Kemp?
Hello everybody, this is Mad Matt. Why is my mouth not moving? Because this effect takes too damn long in post. You're watching Movie Mattness. What is the creepiest thing about Twilight? For me, it's not Edward Cullen's brooding stare or the latently homoerotic way Jacob Black loses his shirt more often than Matthew McConaughey. No, what's creepy to me is the number of Twilight fans who are grown-ups. Hey, I can take teens going crazy over the series, but when grown women start gawking over fictional teenage boys? Well, let's not go there. Instead, let's look at another vampire film, the Swedish masterpiece Let the Right One In. Let the Right One In is the story of a relationship between two adolescents, one a human and one a vampire. The human in this story is 12-year-old Oscar, a latchkey kid and a product of a broken home, whose mother is detached and whose father is an alcoholic. To make matters worse, he's brutally tormented by bullies at school. Into Oscar's life comes Ely. She is mysterious and beautiful, and after an awkward first meeting, she seems to like Oscar. But Ely is a vampire. Not of the goofy, sparkling variety, but the kind that must avoid the sunlight lest she burst into flames. What's more, Ely's thirst can only be quenched by human blood, none of this crappy animal blood for her. Of course, it's hard to talk about Let the Right One In without making the obligatory comparisons to Twilight. On the surface, it might seem that the only major difference between the films is the gender reversal of the two principals. But the distinctions are much deeper than this, and Let the Right One In is all the richer for it. For one thing, most of the affected sexual tension of Twilight is absent. Although Oscar clearly has an attraction to Ely, even asks her to be his girlfriend at one point, he still is only 12 years old, just barely pubescent and too sheltered to make sense of his feelings. There are other factors too that make any future sexual relationship between Oscar and Ely impossible. Let the Right One In has been unjustly dubbed as Twilight for grown-ups, but I don't think that's a fair comparison. Twilight plays like a piece of fan fiction right out of the pages of Tiger Beat. Let the Right One In is subtler, simpler, and it draws an audience in by tapping into deeper, more genuine feelings of loneliness and longing. For one thing, the film does not seek to turn its vampire into a sex symbol. Lena Leandersson, who plays Ely, is a child, barely 12 years old when the film was in production. To romanticize Ely the way Twilight romanticized Edward Cullen would be perverse, an affront to our sense of common decency. And yet Ely is an attractive character because she offers something to Oscar that most of us wish we had, the realization that he is not alone. Most people remember what it felt like to be 12 years old, a most difficult time in a child's life. At this age, young boys begin to change, struggling to fit in but feeling disconnected and isolated most of the time. Ely, for Oscar, is that strange and wonderful friend who gets him from the outset. As we have come to know Oscar and sympathize with his plight, we love Ely for being his friend. I think most any little boy would want a best friend like Ely, a beautiful girl arriving right at the time we start noticing girls, someone who accepts us as we are without judgment. It doesn't hurt that Ely's a vampire with super strength, which makes her instrumental in helping Oscar deal with his bullies. In the original novel by Jean-Ovid Lindqvist, there is an eloquent scene when Ely kisses Oscar, and for a moment Oscar sees himself through Ely's eyes. What Oscar sees is that he is strong and courageous, not the sniveling coward he always believed himself to be. In just a few words, Lindqvist conveys what Stephanie Meyer cannot. That exact moment when we realize we are truly loved, without conditions or strings attached. This same emotion comes across in the film, and that is what makes Let the Right One In so magical. If you haven't seen it, put down your dog-eared copy of Breaking Dawn and get to it. Movies like this don't come along very often.
All right, we've seen what you can do with a boy. How are you when they come a little bigger?